Tears of the Kingdom has brought the Zelda series to new heights, and with Eiji Aunoma confirming the next Zelda game will not be in this Hyrule, it begs the question, what's next? The next Zelda game will almost surely be in the open world style for two reasons. Firstly, these games have sold far more than the traditional games, and Aonuma has stated he sees Tears of the Kingdom as the evolution of those games. I do think classic Zelda elements can fit into the style though, which I'll get back to in a bit, but it will almost surely be built on the foundations of Breath of the Wild, and it will take these foundations to create something completely different from the Wild era of games. But what will that look like? Breath of the Wild revolutionized the Zelda formula, and Tears of the Kingdom took that formula and made something even better, as well as creating a pretty insane physics system. This leaves them with two paths for the future. They could go even higher and attempt to create an even more ambitious game than Tears, but in my opinion, Tears of the Kingdom's biggest flaw is that it's too ambitious, causing many parts of the game to not be fully fleshed out. The better option in my opinion is to tone it down and focus on the finer details. Rather than creating 100 repetitive shrines, create 20 unique mini-dungeons. Make the world around half the size of Breath of the Wild, but make sure each thing in it is interesting and unique. Some biome variety could go a long way as well, and what I'd really like to see is the next game take place in a different land like Termina, allowing them to go wild with the settings. I think the Lightning Temple is what Zelda Dungeons should look like going forward. It's very much in the new style, but with some classic Zelda flair. I also think limiting your movement options, allowing you to revisit areas and discover new things would be very cool and a great way to shake up gameplay. But I think the main thing holding back the stories and world of the newer games is that if they change the world itself, a 100% playthrough no longer works. But this doesn't actually have to be the case, because in my opinion, a great post-game reward would be to change the world to reflect any part of the game, allowing you to visit anything you may have missed along the way. They need to look to the past. They've created two amazing formulas, so the next step is to figure out how to incorporate classic Zelda elements into the next game. And I invited my friend the Bread Pirate, who's known for his knowledge in Zelda trivia and history, to discuss that, and then I'll share my thoughts on what he says. Let's hear it.
Hey, my name is the Bread Pirate. Apple brought me on board to discuss the ways that the next new Zelda game could implement old Zelda mechanics. As a fan of the traditional 3D and 2D games, my list could probably go on forever of improvements, but I'll narrow it down to just a few key points. The first thing that a new Zelda game could implement from an older Zelda game is linear, in-the-moment storytelling. In Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, a lot of the story is told through flashbacks, which you unlock through exploration. The only problem is, it's very easy to unlock these memories out of order, thus ruining the story that Nintendo created for you. Just a month ago, I was watching a YouTuber complain that they didn't know the order they were supposed to unlock the memories in, and accidentally unlocked the sequence of Sonya dying as their second memory, which ruined the rest of the story for them. It's even possible to watch the final memory first, which would absolutely ruin the rest of the story. On top of that, all of these stories are happening 100 or 10,000 years ago, so you, the player, do not get to experience any of it firsthand. These issues could easily be fixed by having a linear, in-the-moment story that you can opt into instead of experiencing someone else's story through flashbacks. The second thing that a new Zelda game could learn from the older Zelda games is having more enemy variety. Which, I'm not gonna lie, Tears of the Kingdom did a really good job at. It added constructs, evermeans, horriblins, like-likes, boss bokos, rocks, gibdos, gloomhands. That is a pretty nice selection of new enemies, but by the 50th hour of the game, it's likely that you will have seen almost all of them. And if the game is meant to be played for, I don't know, 150 hours, it would have been nice to have a few more biome-specific enemies that you could find throughout the world. For instance, put some Skulltulas in the forest areas, the Dongos in the mountains, and ghosts in your graveyards, or even some skullfish in the water. Speaking of which, water exploration. Get on top of that, Nintendo, there is a lot of potential there. And lastly, who could forget, we still can't pet dogs or cats in Tears of the Kingdom, even though we were able to in Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. Nintendo, what the heck are you doing? But anyways, those are the things that I think that a new Zelda game could learn from the older ones. Thanks for having me on board, European Apple.
Bread mentions a linear storytelling approach, and I think Elden Ring is a great place to look for how they could do that. Its map is very much open world, but the geography ensures that you will go to Limgrave, then Liurnia, and then the Altus Plateau, with some optional areas along the way. Zelda could design the world with this approach to tell a more streamlined linear story while keeping to the open world style. Another option is the save file idea I proposed earlier, as it would lend to a linear story well, since the world could change throughout the game. I very much agree with the biome-specific enemy idea. It would go a long way in making different regions feel unique. And yes, we needed people to pet dogs, but where are the cats? They don't even exist in this game. All in all, we don't know much about the next Zelda game, and that's exciting. There's so many possibilities for the future. Zelda games have typically taken quite a while to make, especially since the jumped open world, and with games taking longer and longer to develop, I don't think we'll be seeing the next Zelda game for a long time. But one thing is for sure, when it does come, it'll be a banger. Zelda games always are.